Hello and welcome to our viewers all around the world. This is People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marere. A political party is supposed to be a closely knit group of persons with common belief systems or ideologies with the aim of winning elections, operate government and influence public policy. It is therefore expected that a political party should provide leadership and direction for the larger society. But what happens when parties become centers of controversy, indiscipline, and unable to manage their internal affairs? Now, since after the 2023 general elections in Nigeria, some of the political parties, including the victorious parties in the various elections, have been enmeshed in one form of crisis or the other, an indication that they were mere contraptions for contesting the elections. They have failed to close ranks. Rather, there appears to be a widening of their cracks. Now let's take the four leading political parties for instance: the Labour Party, the New Nigeria People's Party, the ruling All Progressives Congress, and the People's Democratic Party. They have all been hit by leadership crisis. The crisis of confidence in the Labour Party started almost immediately after the general elections, with the credibility of the leadership called to question. And after several court rulings, it has continued to fester. The latest is a Court of Appeal ruling in Owerri, the Imo State capital, last week, which removed Julius Abuere as the national chairman of the party and recognized Lamidi Apapa as national chairman. The appellate court also ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to recognize the Apapa-led National Working Committee governorship candidates for the November Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo elections. This ruling is coming on the heels of an April 14 ruling by the Benin Division of the Court of Appeal, which affirmed Julius Abuere as the national chairman, but in a different case and in a different context. Like the Labour Party, crisis has also hit the New Nigeria People's Party. There has been a spate of threats of suspensions and actual suspensions. The National Working Committee of the party last week suspended the chairman of the Board of Trustees and its National Publicity Secretary for what he described as abuse of the party's constitution. Before then, the Forum of State Chairmen of the party had demanded the resignation of the presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 elections, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, or risk indefinite suspension over alleged anti-party activities. They claimed he was trying to hijack the party from its founding members. In the ruling All Progressives Congress, it has not been all rosy despite winning the presidency, more state governorship seats, and controlling the National Assembly. The man who led the party to the elections, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, its national secretary, and several other national officers were forced to vacate office in less than savory circumstances, bordering on lack of commitment to the party's goals before and during the elections. A new leadership has since emerged, but even that has been dogged by controversy over zoning and micro-zoning arrangement in the party. The appointment last week of new National Working Committee members from some states has been generating street protests involving even a governor from one of the North Central states. The disagreements and apparent poor crisis management in the People's Democratic Party predates the general elections, which arguably fractured the party, but it came to a head after the elections and culminated in the unceremonious departure of its national chairman, Dr. Iyorchia Ayu. But even after that, the party appears to be withdrawn into its shell. The big question is, what is it with the political parties in Nigeria that they are unable or incapable of managing their internal affairs in an accountable and fair manner? How is it that parties that preach the ideas of democracy are themselves found wanting in the practical application of those values? How can they want to give what they do not have? Well, join us in our discussion on this all-important issue. My guests, analysts, are already here in the studio, and one of them is joining us online via Zoom from Gusau in Zamfara State. But first, let's get to meet our guest in the studio. Professor Yusuf Zoaka is of the Political Science Department of the University of Abuja. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you so much.
Well, we're joined online by Dr. Abdurrahman Adamu, of the Political Science Department at the Federal University in Gusau in Zamfara State. He's online, he will be joining us shortly. But here in the studio, Barrister Max Oga is an Abuja-based legal practitioner. He's joining us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, our discussion will kick off in a moment when we return from this very short break. Stay with us.
Live, on air, online.
All right, thank you for staying with us. People, Politics and Power is looking at the state of the political parties in Nigeria, especially against the backdrop of leadership crisis that is buffeting some of the political parties. Let's quickly cross over to Gusau in Zamfara State and meet our guest there. Dr. Abdurrahman Adamu is of the Political Science Department of the Federal University in Gusau. Thank you so much, Dr. Adamu, for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Right, and you are joined right here in the studio by Professor Yusuf Zoaka. He's also of the Political Science Department, University of Abuja, and Barrister Max Oga, who is a legal practitioner here in the nation's capital. Let me begin with you, Professor Zoaka, as a political scientist. Are you surprised that the political parties appear to be very unstable in terms of its leadership and its ability, or their abilities, to manage crisis within their fold?
I'm not surprised at all, that the political parties are having all these leadership crises and they're unable to manage themselves. Because the parties, if you look at it very critically, you will see that they're made of, people that are strangers to each other. If you are going to form a political party, you are supposed to have people that have similar ideas, similar worldview, and then they, come together, organize themselves to acquire power and use it, to direct the society. But in this case, there are strange bedfellows that came together. If you look at the APC, it's full of all sorts of characters, a mixture of various parties that came together to form the party. You look at the PDP, the same thing, because they don't have the same worldview or the same ideology. Some of them will be a little bit radical, some are conservatives. They now come together. It's very difficult for them to, create a path for themselves that will unite all of them. And so it's a big problem, managing them. That's why virtually all of them are in one form of crisis or the other. And you continue to have that unless, we have also a system that will ensure that the parties, apart from just thinking of elections, because elections are now over, except of course for the court processes, they should be thinking of building their parties. They should be thinking of activities within the party. You have elected members. Have you done any form of orientation for them on your party ideas, what they should stand for, wherever they are, whether in the House or as governors? What are your programs? You don't see that. It's as if people have been given, blanket checks to just go and do what they want to do. And nobody holds them accountable. At the end of it all, when they graduate from the either governors or whatever, nobody is checking to find out in all sectors what is the level of accomplishment of these Even the parties themselves are not doing that. So when you look at it, it is just, we're being held hostage actually by, these individuals that clearly lack focus in terms of where they would direct the country to. So you find there is infighting amongst them, not even for any ideological grounds or anything, because you are not seeing any debate taking place within the parties. For instance, you say you are removing fuel subsidy. Was there any debate in your party so that you have a common position? Nothing like that. Individuals just go in and then their own ideas, they even throw away the party constitution, everything, and then they keep running. If you take the APC, for instance, the chairman that resigned is from North Central. If you are replacing him, it means you have to get somebody from North Central. You brought somebody from Northwest. Then you have women leader from South, even though from a different state. Now, if you have said you have given that state that concession, then it means you have to get somebody from the state. Not that you're going to bring another person from, even though from the South, but from a different state, it means you are shortchanging them. So you are not promoting some kind of unity within the party itself. So if they're not united, then you can just understand that they are not united. Can they then unite the country? They don't practice democracy within their parties. Can they then practice democracy, in the general? So there's a problem of, failure of leadership and the mismanagement of the political parties themselves. And then when you now want to extend it, even to look at the role that has been given to INEC to supervise them, that department within INEC is as if it's dead. It's not even functioning because nothing completely is being done in terms of checking these parties. You don't just give them or allow them to operate without any form of check. And that's why you find no internal democracy within the political parties. And so therefore they cannot give democracy, to Nigerians. And that's why they will just take all sorts of decisions that may not augur well, eventually for the country.
Dr. Adamu, let me come to you. If you look at the political parties after the 2023 elections, it's been a top, what I would call very cantankerous attitude of some of the political party leadership. Almost all the political parties, particularly the major political parties, the so-called major political parties, have had one crisis or the other. And people make reference to what the political parties used to be in the First Republic, in the Second Republic, and even in the Third Republic. And that there was a lot of discipline in the parties at that time. There was a lot of control. You had a situation where members of the political parties flowed with the ideologies of the political parties and the belief systems of the political parties at that time. But that is not the case now. What do you think is responsible for this, what we may call modern day political party behavioral pattern?
Everything rises and falls on leadership. And until leadership is in play, national decay will continue to lack remedy. The truth of the matter is this, just like Professor Zwaka rightly said, the major problem in Nigerian political parties is that lack of, internal democracy. What do you mean by internal democracy? Internal democracy, is a process whereby political party engage its members in deliberations, decision-making and action. At the same time, to ensure transparency and accountability of, office bearers of such political parties. It is the effective, management of party affairs or businesses by which all members of the group are involved. But if you look at Nigerian, situation, the reverse is always the case. Ordinarily, a party that, has what we call elements of internal, democracy encourages, the application of openness and integration of all stakeholders in the conduct of party affairs, especially in setting policy agenda and the selection of party flag bearers for election. But in Nigeria, if you look at it critically, political parties in Nigeria are only or more concerned about winning elections. That is the truth. Most political parties in Nigeria, do not have, what we call ingredients of what qualifies, political parties. And some of them, what they do mostly in Nigeria is that they look at political party as a family affair or an individual, thing. Once one is rich, because we've been able to, assist a political party, maybe financially, or you want to be the decider who decides for the political party. And when political party, who is just like Professor Dwaka said, who is supposed to set agenda for governance, is busy, busy with trying to see how to settle internal problems, then I think there's a problem. The major problem with them is that they do not follow due process in electing their leadership. That is number one problem. Because as a governor in a political party, you want to bring somebody from your state to be party, executive. As a senator, you want to bring somebody from your state to be party executive. And that is the problem. If people are not allowed, to vie for elective office, maybe party leadership, bring people that are competent, people that are qualified, not just to bring stooges of governors who will only come and, play the cards of the governors. And that is what is the problem. You look at what happened in the PDP, most especially before the presidential election, between especially the former chairman of the party and Governor Wike. It was an embarrassing situation, whereby Wike claiming to have sponsored Senator Ayu, and because of that, he also want to actually dictate for the chairman of the party what to do, and that is not democracy. That is not democracy. An institution whereby an individual wants to dictate for political party, for the chairman or leadership of the party what to do, what not to do. I think there will definitely be crisis in that political party. This is the major problem with Nigerian political parties. They do not even understand what is leadership. Because, number one, when you ask them, someone who wants to be a party chairman, party whatever, secretary, whatever, ask them what is the leadership. Some of them, they don't even know the tenets, what do you call what qualifies one to be a leader. But because they want to bear the name, I'm the chairman of the party, this, that, they want to fight to become president or to become understanding what leadership is all about. And one of the problems is that political parties themselves, they've allowed themselves, to be managed or to be controlled by individuals who have been able to, finance maybe one or two activities of the party. And the major problem is the party, allow an individual to fund, its activities. I think that is what brought the problem between former governor of Rivers State, Nelson Wike, and that of the former party chairman, Senator Ayu. If you don't follow due process in leadership selection or leadership recruitment, there will definitely be a problem at the end of the day. I think until and unless they've been able to put all these issues together, they will never make progress in whatever they do. Because internal party democracy is seen as well as mechanism for ensuring that both party leadership and ordinary members of the party are engaged in serious discussion and debate concerning policies and programs of the party. But like I said, in Nigeria, the reverse is the case, just like Professor Zwaka said. So that is the problem. Most of the political parties in Nigeria are not different from some civil society organizations. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Adamu, who is of the Political Science Department of the Federal University in Gusau. He's still very much with us, but let me come to Barrister Max Oga. What do you think got us to where we are with the political parties in Nigeria today? Professor Zwaka seems to suggest that a lot is missing. Just like Adamu says, the ingredients of leadership and democracy are not present in most of the political parties. Is it with the formation of the political parties or the behavior of those who constitute the political parties, or a combination of both?
I think it's, in addition to what Doctor said, lack of identification of the purpose for which a lot of us are in politics is responsible for this. Like Miles Monroe would say, when purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Now, the late Senator Idris Ibrahim Kuta had said in 1999, between when they were elected and when they were inaugurated as members of the National Assembly, came to address us as law students in ABU Zaria. And he said, people shouldn't go into politics because they want to make money to buy their first cars or build their first houses. That people should go into politics after having accomplished all that they need to accomplish in their chosen careers. Then they cannot go into politics to serve the people. But now what you have existing today is far from that. And of course, the results and the consequences cannot be different, right? Because everyone who gets elected as a party official sees that position as an opportunity to make money. And in doing so, the person wants to edge out the other. That now brings in the issue of exclusivity as opposed to inclusivity. Now, those who are excluded want to fight back because they also want a seat on the table. They also want their own piece of the cake. That is what is overheating the system and causing the political parties, instead of having focus and moving towards a particular direction, members of these political parties are pulling towards opposite and opposing directions. That's why we're having this issue. Now, you cannot compare any Fourth Republic political party in Nigeria with the African National Congress, ANC, in South Africa, for instance, because the purpose of that political party in South Africa is well known to all its members. Everybody is working towards that. But here we all want to make money. Someone finishes youth service, and the first job the person feels he should have, job in code, is to take a position in a political party in order to make money. And where that money is not coming, they begin to cause crisis. Or where they see that others are getting this money without them getting, they begin to cause crisis. That's why we're having all of this. And it has become like a pattern. Since the days of the John Odigi Oyeguns in the APC, the Solomon Lars, the retired general who was PDP chairman under Obasanjo, since their days as chairman of national chairman of political parties, you hardly can count the number of people who were elected and they did their 4 years as chairman because of all of these issues. Look at the Yochayu, look at Uche Secondus, look at Adams Oshimole, look at Abdoulaye Adamu, look at what is happening in the Labour Party. Because we have lost direction, we have lost focus, the purpose of which we are in politics. Rather than being service, is aggrandizement. And where you have an interest, he has Prof has an interest, I have an interest, and all the interests are conflicting. While Prof wants service to the people, I want to make money. To be able to show that, oh, as national secretary of a political party or state secretary, I bought a car or built a house from me. You want to ensure that your son, your daughter, or your wife gets a ticket to run election, and you make money to travel overseas with your family. There is no way we'll be on the same page with him. And we'll have the consequences we're having today. This is also responsible for the reason why we don't have quality and acceptable candidates in a lot of positions, because some people go for candidates who have the money to give to them even when they have nothing to offer. Bring the money, you get the ticket. When others insist, no. Let's reward hard work, let's reward competence, let's draw up qualitative candidates. Others will say no. We spent money to come here, so let us make the money. So, in summary, lack of purpose, lack of knowledge of the purpose for which we're in politics is responsible for the crisis we have in our political parties. Number two, exclusivity is also a reason why if we have the spirit of inclusiveness and we carry everybody along, we won't have a lot of the crises we are having. Let me drop this on the table again, building on one of the things Prof said. If our interest is service and only service, we will not bother about where a particular office holder comes from. If the essence of having an APC national chairman is to serve the people and build the party and ensure the party achieves its aims and objectives, then it won't matter whether the national chairman is from North Central, North East, or North West. If the purpose is working towards the APC, achieving what it is intended to achieve, it will make a difference. Whether the replacement for the national women leader, or whether women or woman leader, I don't know which of it is correct now, whether that replacement is coming from Cross River State or from another state in the South. So we must, by way of profiling a solution, identify and adhere to the purpose for which we are in politics. We should be in politics for service. That's what I've always advocated, even on your program here.
And
That
when
we should reduce the glamour around politics. We should reduce the entitlements around politics. If a professor in the university can earn what a senator earns, we won't be desperate. If a principal of a secondary school can earn what a member of the House of Rep earns, people will not assassinate each other because they want positions. That's the truth. But when you have a young man, you have a young woman, oh, he or she becomes a minister, becomes a member of the House of Rep, becomes a senator, and overnight the person becomes a multi-millionaire. Oh, then others in the average tower want to go there. People want to leave private legal practice, private medical practice. People want to leave journalism, private practice of journalism. Also go there to get a piece of the cake, and we'll keep having all of these issues.
Prof, what would you consider as the major difference between the political parties of the First and Second Republics and those of the Fourth Republic? Because in the First and Second Republics, there were hardly stories or situations that we now experience of the topsy-turvy nature of the crisis, of the leadership crisis in political parties. I recall that in the First Republic and even in the Second Republic, we knew of perhaps one or two leaders of political parties who were there for so long. Chief Obafemi Awolowo in the UPN, Adisa Akinloye in the MPN, Alhaji Waziri in the GMPP, and Aminu Kano in the PROP, and so on and so forth. But that's not the case today. In fact, if you ask a secondary school student, I'm not even talking of a primary school student now, who the national chairman of a political party is in Nigeria today as a current affairs program, they will hardly remember anyone because there today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the major difference, he has actually cited quite a number of them. The First Republic, Second Republic, they were more concerned about service to the people. And then if you look at the economy then also, it's a very major contributory factor. Economy was more stable. You look at the value of the Naira and dollar at that time. Naira was stronger than the dollar. You know, so people were contented. At that time, you find a lot of foreigners in Nigerian universities coming to work. Today, the reverse is the case. And that's simply because the incursion of the military has also contributed in destroying the economy. Then you now have, you know, these politicians who are not concerned, so much concerned about building a strong economy. Rather, what they're interested in is the revenue. And now even the revenue, you can't even collect it because it's stolen at the point of even, you know, tapping the resources. So when you now have, and nobody's been, you know, taken to court or even, you know, sentenced because of the problem, which is corruption, as it is so deep. So at that time, you had people who are, you know, they are more concerned about their names. You know, they made names for themselves, not based on money, but because they were serving people. And so you cannot point to any house of Sardauna Ahmadu Bello, that is the house of Sardauna, or Tafawa Balewa, or Awolowo, or Zik, that these are their properties. No. They were serving their people. The reverse is the case now. These individuals who have now are serving themselves. They're not serving anybody. That's why they would decide, for instance, that they're given all sorts of, they want to buy bulletproof cars in this period that people are unable to feed themselves. You know, and then you will not even be saying that you are paying allowances for holidays, apart from the salaries you are collecting. You go for a two weeks break, you are paid all the money. You come into the office, you are paid money. Everywhere you are going, money is following you. Of course, that will make the thing to be very attractive, and everybody is now thinking that, okay, the most thriving business in Nigeria is what? Is politics. Because they're the only ones that are building, you know, maybe houses, building hotels, building, if there's any new business coming up anywhere, it's likely a politician is behind that because they're the ones that have the money. They're the ones that will go collect hundreds of millions of naira, you know, from agencies that they're expected to supervise so that those agencies deliver their mandates. But that's not their concern. All they do is to collect whatever they can get from the agency and look the other way. And that's why there's no development. So they are not even comparable. It's all like say you want to compare apples and oranges. They are not comparable. They are quite different. The politicians of the First Republic, Second Republic were more concerned about service. And you had the parties were even strong because there's no way, you remember when they had a coup, it was Adisa Akinyole Akio, who had
Glory,
a
yeah.
wine that was designed with his picture on it, which also angered the military. So he was just a party leader, not even a president or anything. But they had a way in which those in the executive arm, legislative, are always meeting with the party leaders to ensure that they put them, on track in terms of the party program, so that they don't go outside what the party has planned. And that is why, if you take the Shagari's regime, up to date, there are people living in Shagari low-cost houses built by Shagari government, even though some states, out of politics, they will say they are not giving them sites anywhere around the city. They take them outskirts. But those places today have become part and parcel of some of the urban centers that we have. But you saw clearly that, those politicians had focus. I always ask my students, I said, look, Awolowo was able to build a glass house. How many story building? In that first republic, glass house, glass building. How many of our Western politicians are even thinking like that? Apart from providing Western education, free Western education. Now today, we're even proud to say we're going to give students loan to go to school. I keep wondering. And most of these individuals went to school. They even had people ironing their clothes. When your clothes are dirty, you keep it. The watchman will come and clean it for you and submit it to you. You have been paid to go to school. Then today, you are now in the one in authority that you cannot even replicate that. If you can't replicate that, why then put a lot of burden, on the students? Every day, you find universities increasing fees. For what reason? And by the time you trace most of these funds, they're not being used for any development of either the students or even the institutions. Individuals just pocket it and go away. There are several visitation panel reports hanging in the government. Nobody is willing to implement it. And several persons have been reprimanded, so some have been banned from holding offices and so on. Nobody is willing to even go and look at those. Every day, ASU has to be shouting for government to even set up the panels. When they set up the panels, they sell hundreds of millions of naira for people to go around. Then when the results are out, they are not willing to implement it. So we have a big problem, but if you take the parties that time and now, you also find that currently you go to most of the party offices, they have officials, that is their secretariat. They have some staff, directors and all that. For you to know that these are not even functioning at all, because most of the activities are not even done in the secretariat. They do it outside, in someone's house, in guest houses. That's how they arrive at their decisions. And so therefore you don't find any serious, debate going on within these parties. And you cannot run a party without discussion with your members. And you must even have members. Go and look at their register. Now they will tell you they have the largest party, And when you look at the results of the election, that tells you this is a big lie. APC said they are 41 million. PDP said they are 51 million. Total number of voters, including people who are not even members of any party, 25 million. Who tells you that it's a big lie? So we can't drive, or drive a democracy on those false premises. We must be frank with ourselves. And that's why I said the office in INEC that's supposed to oversee these parties is sleeping. They are doing nothing. How much they spent, for instance, in the last election? They should be able to, they collected money. They should be transparent. So when you want to promote accountability, transparency, you are not able to do it in your party. Is it when you have government offices that will be transparent? You certainly will not be. Because within the party, the way you even emerge, you exclude everybody. Look at the fees they were selling the forms, 100 million, 50 million. How many people can afford that? You have already excluded people. So you are running a plutocracy. Or even what one gentleman was saying, that is a kakistocracy. It's a just government of people that have low quality thinking that are governing everybody that has a brain over his head. That's what you're having. And so we cannot move anywhere. The quality of our leaders then and now is completely different. Those ones had values, things they cherish. Honesty, accountability, respect even for themselves. I don't see all this elevation of religion, manipulation of religion, manipulation of region. All those type of manipulations are not as pronounced as they are today.
Do you agree, Mr. Marx, that perhaps the interference of such cleavages as religion, ethnicity, and personal interest is possibly a major hindrance to the smooth conduct and running of political parties?
No, I think personal interest should be the topmost hindrance to all of this. If you take religion, take Kanu, for instance, where almost everyone is a Muslim, but they still have crises, within the political parties there. You know, take Cross River, for instance, where everybody is a Christian. They still have crisis. So it's interest, personal interest. Everybody wants to be the one calling the shots. Like Prof rightly identified, some members of the APC have cried out that did cry out that for the period Abdullah Adam was national chairman, there was never an ESCO meeting. A cabal meets to take decisions on what is to be done. And in such a situation, it is natural that those who are left out must fight back. And once they fight back, they will overheat the system and will have the consequences we're having. So we must subdue our personal interest if we must make progress. And we must also stop looking at, okay, let me exclude us. People must stop looking at politics as an occupation. Politics is not an occupation. Like Idris Kuta said, and I referenced him earlier on, succeed in the academics, then come out as a retiree from that sector to serve your people. Succeed as a lawyer, then come out there to serve your people. But you don't come straight from the International Conference Center, now Body of Benchers complex, as in a new week, and the first thing you're doing is going to buy a nomination form, a political party. So all you're going to do there is look for money. All you're going to
becomes
do
your primary occupation.
Awolowo was well established. He was a lawyer, he was an economist. Nnamdi Azikiwe was a journalist. They were well established, so they put in their best. They were there to serve their people. Like Prof rightly said, who can show us Tafawa Balewa's plaza anywhere? Who can show us land, a large expanse of land anywhere owned by Tafawa Balewa? Who can show us a mansion anywhere owned by Ahmadu Bello? Who can?
Oba Aminu Kano.
Oba Aminu Kano. Because this were there to serve the people. But is that what we do today? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. Today we want to get there. And that's why that's why once we have an opportunity of occupying an office, we don't want to leave. Someone who studied journalism, for instance, came out of school and did not practice journalism and got elected into a state house of assembly. If the person leaves politics after 4 years, what is he going to be doing? So they want to remain there. The person who wants to go back to the state house of assembly or come to the House of Reps in Abuja. From the House of Reps, he wants to become a governor, a senator. From there, the person goes back to his or her state to seek to become the governor of the state. And after serving as governor for 8 years, the person wants to come back to the Senate because they cannot do any other thing. Now, I don't want to be personal, but let me give us this example. Kanu Godwin Agabi, SAN, got to the zenith in his profession as a senior advocate of Nigeria. He got involved in politics, became Minister of Justice and Attorney General, left office, and went back to private practice because there was already a foundation. He went back to private practice. And he's doing well. But those who came out from the law school and straight found their ways to the House of Reps or state houses of assembly or became deputy governors. When you take them out, in less than 3 years, they start begging. Oh, yes. They start begging. You start seeing cases in court of recovery of premises from people who are their landlords. You know, so people must learn to build themselves up. Get established. I've read a little about Chief Innocent Awudugbe as a young man who was elected into the Benue State House of Assembly. He went there with something because he had done some things before he got there. And all of that. But we don't have that these days. The Chuba Kadibos of this world were well established in whatever they did then before getting involved in politics. So we must go back to those days. There's something Prof said that I don't want to buy hook, line, and sinker. Oh, that the economy then was better. Oh, that the economy is not good enough today. The naira is weak compared to the dollar. Is not enough for us not to do things aright. We must do things rightly. Wives must, call their husbands to tax. Parents must call their children to tax. If their children and spouses are entrusted with public offices, their spouses and their children and their parents must always remind them that they are there to serve. and not to become rich overnight. Well, buy vehicles and put special numbers on them with their names and all of that, and oppress the people everywhere and every day. No, no, no. It shouldn't be so. It shouldn't be so. Service first. And every political party must work as a team. I like the acronym TEAM, T-E-A-M. Together, each achieves much. But where 2 out of a 15, 16, 17, or 20 member executive committee is meeting in a hotel or in a guest house somewhere in somebody's residence to take a decision that will bind all of the right people, then there will always be a fight. And we'll have these issues we're having. And whenever we have these issues, we push them to the judiciary. And we blame the judiciary. Because from the outlay you gave us here, the Court of Appeal in Benin had taken a position, even though you captured it very well, you said in another context. The Court of Appeal in Benin had taken a position on the leadership of the Labour Party between Julius Abure and Lamidi Apapa. Now, the Court of Appeal in Owerri is also, or has also made a pronouncement on the same issue. So if you are not careful to identify and distinguish the context, you say the judiciary. So politicians are creating problems and pushing the blame tacitly to the judiciary because of their greed, because of their impatience, because of their lack of team spirit. Very sad.
I hope that we are able to get back Dr. Abrahama Adamu very quickly, but for now, Professor Zwaka, the leadership recruitment process, or rather, the membership recruitment process in the political parties, is it a contributory factor to the crisis that we're having in the political parties? In the past, First, Second Republics, if you were a member of a political party, you made contributions, financial contributions to the running of the party, and you had a greater say in what happens in the political parties. These days, members don't even pay membership fees of any sort. Money bags run the parties, and they seek to control what happens in the political parties. So that process, that recruitment process, membership and ultimately leadership recruitment process, how do we reverse this trend, the current trend, and get the parties as one of the pillars of democracy to function properly? Because without the instrumentality of the political parties, democracy itself cannot be said to function in a very proper and orderly manner.
Yeah, thank you. I think what can be done, in order to, you have to first have members. And I told you, first you have to look at the register of the political parties. How do you become a member of a party? Without registering. You are supposed to go to the ward level of that party, obtain a form, register as a member. And then, of course, you are given the constitution and all the necessary guides that will help you. If you are supposed to be paying, if it is just 50 kobo or 1 naira, whatever the amount, monthly, as your contribution to the party, you should be, as a loyal party member, you should be able to, that's what will make you a member, if you are contributing financially. But you have a situation where we are now having godfatherism, the kind of politics that is going on today. The politics of the godfathers. So godfathers decide who is going to run for whatever office. They produce the party, leadership at the ward level, at the local government level, at the state level, at regional level, national level. So when you have, money bags, but actually deciding everything, it's extremely difficult for you to, retool them back to practice democracy. That's why we said, if you look at the political parties themselves, are they having internal democracy? If you don't have a good register of your members, you don't have a register that is credible of your members, because you have members, it's not to tell us we are the largest. You have registered people online and all that. All sorts of people will register. One person's name can be generated into 100, 200 names, one name. We have seen all those things on the net. And then you say, these are your members of fictitious individuals. So you don't run, you cannot, and that is why I said the supervision, because there's somebody supposed to be supervising them. So there's no supervision. So they do what they like. Then they have crises within the party. That's why you won't even know where they're holding their primaries. They'll tell you, we're going to hold primaries in Asokoro. They go to Wuse. And yet, officials of INEC will follow them to Wuse, and those some other people have gathered at Asokoro, which was the authentic venue. Then when they now produce results, it's a crisis. So you can't run an organization like that. You must have clear, identifiable venues for everything. So who are the members of the party? I think if you start from the registration of the party members, then you will know. Let's know the strength of the political parties. I think CDD did some work some years back, and they said, look, the entire politicians, assemble them at, including those ones serving and those ones that are their supporters, are not more than 10% of the population. Which is, if you assemble the entire thing, they're not more than 20 million in terms of their population. But they claim when they do their own registration by themselves, because nobody's supervising them, they are almost 100 million, particularly the two major parties. The other ones don't even claim any population because they know they don't have. It's just a movement of individuals that are strong politically. And so the people follow them, because some of these people have charisma. And they are being loved, by their people because of maybe some of the things they've done. And so people massively follow them. But it's not as if these people are actually registered as members of any party. It's not like if you take the Labour Party, all the crises they're having. The strength of the Labour Party is not even members of Labour. It is, the young people who have seen in the candidate of the Labour Party some hope. So they massively were following him under the obedience. But it's not as if it is even, so all the quarrels they're having within the party, when you want to look at it, who are even the members of that party? Because, you must have membership. So if your membership, once the membership issue is not very clear in terms of who are the members, do they have, where they meet at the ward level? Do they have where they meet at the local government level? At the state level? Do you just assemble people if there's going to be any meeting? For instance, in Abuja, we have seen delegates who are not from some states wearing tags that they are from some states in this drama that's been going on. And that's simply because you don't have members. So if you have clear, identifiable members in a particular area, then they should be the ones, no matter how primitive they are, or you think they are primitive, they are the ones that will come. Because they are the ones, that are supposed to represent your party. So if you have those kind of very clear, processes, then you can have, some element of, good democracy. Why I made the point earlier that, the economy contributes a lot is because Larry Diamond has proposed that you cannot even start saying you want to practice democracy unless your economy, the per capita income is hovering between $5,000 to $8,000, and we are less than 2,000. So whatever struggles we are making, there are people who study these things and make positions. It's not as if we are just talking. And that's why when I said, if you look at the First Republic, of course, in the First Republic, up to 79, 80, nobody who finishes university and doesn't have a job. Recruitment, organizations come to university as they are writing their final papers to recruit them so that they start working even before you start talking about NYC and all those things. The reverse is the case now. You go, you finish university, nobody knows what, so you go come back again for second degree, you finish that one also, you are not even be recruited by the department, you go back, do a PhD, they still will not recruit you. It is a very pathetic situation.
Okay, Dr. Abdurrahman Adamu, let me come to you now as we begin to wind down our discussion. In most successful democracies around the world, in the political parties, the process is bottom up. That is, the membership from the lower level, from, say, the ward level, as we call it in Nigeria, moving up to state and then to the federal level. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. How do we correct that kind of anomaly, where we have the up to bottom approach, which is what we have now? Dr. Adamu, please, you need to unmute so that we can hear you. Unmute your microphone. Dr. Adamu, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear
Okay,
you.
please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, bad governance has been the core of the problem of political parties, and even democracy in Nigeria. You see, electoral process is not able to give Nigeria good leaders because the whole process of, electoral process and what do you call political parties in Nigeria is being commoditized, marketized, and commercialized. In Nigeria, just like Prof said the other time, when we try to make comparison or differentiate between the First Republic, Second Republic, and what we have today, to me, the major difference is that political parties in the First, Second, and Third Republics, they reward hard work, punish laziness. But what we have today in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. Political parties today in Nigeria, even the democratic system in Nigeria today, rewards laziness and then punish hard work. If you have money in Nigeria, you can literally buy your way into electoral position, be it political party or National Assembly, State Assembly, or to become governor. Literally as a result of what? Nigerians end up getting criminals as their leaders. And therefore, there's no development. In addition, even those that are in power today, they end up pursuing their own personal objectives. And even the bureaucracy itself has not really helped in Nigeria, because bureaucracy itself in Nigeria is also corrupt. If you look at it over the years, the bureaucrats have ended up becoming business people, contractors. They have their own companies. So any government that come in, most of the actors in the government connive with the bureaucrats and other criminals, local and foreign, in order to defend, to defraud government. And as such, there's no good leadership. Like I said, leadership is the major, problem in Nigeria. And when you look at it critically, the system, like I said, has not, set a good, difference. If, for instance, those were found to be problem, of leadership in Nigeria, if the government should actually, prosecute them, let law take its course. But we've not been able to do that. Like I said, in Nigeria, if you have your money, I think you'll be the indicator of, leadership in Nigeria. And that is the problem. The leadership, the electoral process, political parties in Nigeria have not been able to, give us good leaders. And the reason is because the right people are not actually allowed, to be in, position of authority. Just like the barrister said the other time, that's the major problem. Good people, the right people are not allowed into politics because those that have the money, decide who becomes leaders. Just like Karl Marx said, he said that the class that controls power control the state. And the characters of those that controls power reflects the characters of the state entirely. And that is exactly what we have today in Nigeria. Ordinarily, in a Nigerian democracy, the selection and the election of both candidates, be it political party or electoral offices, should be based on rules and regulations as contained in both party constitution and even the constitution of the land.
Okay. Dr. Adamu, let's leave it at that. Our time is up. We must go. Thank you so much. Dr. Abdulrahman Adamu is of the Political Science Department, the Federal University of Gusau in Zamfara State. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. We look forward to seeing you again. And of course, right here in the studio, we have Professor Yusufu Zwaka, of the Political Science Department of the University of Abuja here in the nation's capital. Thank you so much, Prof. So much, and Barrister Max Oga is a legal practitioner who is based here in the nation's capital. Thank you so much.
Once again, thanks for having me.
All right, and for our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. We look forward to bringing you a fresh edition of the program, People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.